Talk a little bit about your new space. I think that'll be the part that'll kind of blow people's minds.
And there was lots of sleepless nights, especially financial. Difference was the first one was the need. I had to have a practice. The second one was optional, and the optional part is then it's I think the perfect term is ego. I just had to get that sorted, and I felt like my dream had to come together. So I had to put something up that is beautiful.
Hello there, everybody, and welcome to another edition of your Orthopreneurs podcast. Today we're going down under. Well, not technically. He's in California, but he's from down under. He's been here once before, but we have some amazing topics we're going to talk about today. So please, everybody, put your hands together for Dr. Vas Srinivasan. Welcome.
Hi, Glenn. That was awesome. That's great to have chatting with you again, especially after the massive summit you put up. And thanks to you and your team, I had such a blast. I mean, I can't tell you how thankful I am. My wife thinks I'm awesome because I've been to a nightclub after 20 years. So that's, I think it's a great credit to you and your team.
We got you to Tao Beach Club and then the club, and we got you to Omnia. You went to like two of the biggest, best clubs in the world in a matter of 2 days, but that wasn't by accident.
No, it was not. I think I credit to your team. They did a great job, excellent job.
Well, thank you. It really meant a lot to me for you to be there, to see so many Europeans, Australians, Eurasian, Australasia. There were so many people who were just from all over the world who came, and a nice size Australian contingent was great. They just smiled and gave me a Vegemite sandwich. Well, it's actually he did give me a jar. Vas did give me a jar of Vegemite, which I now spell with a capital V. It's not Vegemite with a lowercase v. It is a brand Vegemite with a capital V, and Tim Tams. And I just have to say up front, anybody who knows what I'm talking about, the Tim Tams are freaking ridiculous. They're the greatest cookie ever made in the history of cookies. Vegemite, I think, is going to take some time.
That's true. Hey, Tim Tams, the secret to Tim Tams is to have it on. I mean, if you're someone like me who loves black coffee as their staple diet, I just think Tim Tams are best to dip it on black coffee and sip through it. It's the greatest feeling. It's not the greatest thing for your body, but again, having in moderation. But Vegemite is, I would hate to say this. I personally don't have Vegemite myself on an ongoing life. But it's a great way to give a lot of my friends who are non-Australians to remind every time they see that jar, they have to think of me.
Amen. The yellow jar with the red writing. But the question is, and just to solve this debate right now, what is Vegemite? I tasted it. I had it on a cracker. But what is Vegemite?
It's an yeast extract. It's the most healthiest thing you could have on your sandwich per se, but you have it in very little quantity because it's not the greatest to have it in lots of quantity. You would have a tiny bit of it, and obviously the best way also is to have it with butter. So then you have that salt combo go well. I do have a lot of people who will have it with some strange combinations, especially in Australia, but again, we won't go there.
But not all Australians love Vegemite.
Not really. I think it's uniquely Australian. So if you really wanted to have that experience, you would have it like shrimp on the barbie.
Right. Yeah, have a shrimp on the barbie. I feel like Vegemite is, and I may be the only person to ever say this in the history of the world, that Vegemite is a lot like caviar. You just don't eat a ton of it. You put it on a cracker. Nobody eats caviar with a spoon out of the jar, except maybe my son. But you put caviar on a cracker, maybe with something else on it. Vegemite strikes me as the same sort of thing. You put it on a cracker or on a sandwich along with other things to enhance the flavor, right?
Brilliant. That's the way to go.
There you go, folks. You heard it here first. Vegemite is like caviar.
Australian caviar.
It said nobody ever. But the reason I have you on here is because you're a visionary. Whether you want to believe it or not, you are. You see the world through a different set of eyes that I think will really help and enhance those listening right now. So first thing, if you don't mind giving us a little recap, 30, 60 seconds of, I know you practice down under, but if you want to tell people a little bit about, where you went to school, why you became an orthodontist, and where you practice now. That way we can jump into the story after that.
Right. I was born in India to a Burmese immigrant parent, mother side, and my dad is Indian. And obviously coming from a half refugee family, we've had no pleasure of living in a great household. Education system in India is based on purely, your skill levels. My sister became a medical doctor. She's in Chicago. But as always, I was never the academic in the household, and I got to the second or third best, which is dentistry. And my dad used to say, I remember in year 1995 or 96, he said to me, now who goes to the dentist? Only people who have either they haven't to have the teeth removed or only then pain. So anyways, I had to convince him a lot to get through dental school. And after dental school, I had a stint in the US and in going from the hottest part of India to go to the United States and live in Minnesota. And that really changed my perspective of coming from in Fahrenheit, 120-degree Fahrenheit, to go down to 25, 30 degrees, all in a matter of 24 hours.
Wow.
Life was very, very different. And over the many years after that, I realized that I wanted to specialize in orthodontics. And I got an excellent offer from University of Sydney in orthodontics. And I moved to the from the US back to Australia and called myself home. So I graduated from University of Sydney in 2006. And now I practice in the great part of Australia, the Southeast Queensland. People who don't know that part, you'll know that very soon because our city is also the host city of the Olympics in 2032.
Oh,
So
interesting.
you will hear a lot about it, and you will see a lot about it with the beautiful coastlines. And I'm just in the southern tip of the Great Barrier Reef, not far, and beautiful coastal part where you can come and surf and whatnot. So the place is called Sunshine Coast. The town itself is called Sunshine Coast because we got 300 plus days of beautiful sunshine.
Wow. Sounds beautiful. And what you've recently done is something a little unusual, right? Well, not unusual. I think a lot of us do it. I did it, but you rebuilt a space. You moved your practice, your existing practice, from a space that you were in into a brand new one. Talk a little bit about what precipitated that, and actually first talk a little bit about your new space. I think that'll be the part that'll kind of blow people's minds, and then let's talk about after that. We'll come back to why you did it.
I've been practicing in my current place as a five-chair office, and in Australia is usually, it's very rare to see a, 7, 8 chair practice because most people, the real estate is very high, and we're all happy with the smaller space, and some doctors would prefer to have multiple locations. So I have a five-chair office. I started that in 2012, and that was pretty exciting. And I didn't expect my 5 chairs to fill up, so I only started with 2 chairs, and every couple of years I added one more. And so 5 chairs was pretty full, and I was very happy with whatnot. Then unfortunately, or fortunately, however you call it, I started meeting people like Glenn, and of course,
I'm blaming this one on Bill Dissinger. Okay, I'm blaming this on Bill Dissinger. This
yes,
has
Bill
nothing to do
did.
with me.
Thanks to Bill, connected with Glenn, and so on, and the inspirations never stop coming. And almost, look, I've never been a big fan of podcasts until I started becoming an entrepreneur's podcast. So then, I had to
Gotcha.
combine whether exercise or walking or whatever it is to listen to podcasts and just, grabbing inspiration from others. And then one special day, I found out there was a corporate orthodontic group that moved into my part of the town. Now, that's very unusual in our part of the world. Corporate orthodontics is not very common. So it was a fear of the unknown. Obviously, with the unlimited budget they may have, or ultimately, I had to be prepared for that. And a lot of my friends were saying, well, they can't compete with you, da da da, all that. And I'm like, look, I don't want to wait to find out one day that I've lost out on the competition because I didn't evolve enough. And I decided I want to embark on an expansion strategy. So I said, when we're going to expand, and I'm 48 now, and I felt like the expansion should be massive to the point that any patient, any parent who walks into my office should never be able to, even if they got a second opinion, they should never have a second thought. Geez, that place was just so perfect, and they took care of me well. And I had to put in every part of orthodontics and customer service as a first experience to create something new. So we now have a 12-chair office. potentially we could go up to 15. So I opened that last week, so I'm very excited.
And it's absolutely gorgeous. It's so beautiful. You've done such a great job with it.
Thank you.
Um, so, you're in your late 40s. Um, you've been doing great as an orthodontist. Is this a scary thing for you? Are you nervous about this?
Well, what is not? I mean, if anyone says then they were not scared, I'm very proud of them. But I was scared, and there was lots of sleepless nights, especially financial. Not because whether I'll have patients or not. The banks didn't want to come to the party. Um, the expectation of wanting to build right after COVID. Initially, everybody wanted to build because there was free money. Governments were giving, banks were happy, but then suddenly inflation goes up and everybody stops straight, and then the valuations didn't come through well. It was just very, very stressful, and I had to put the house as to remortgage and almost borrow every bit. So it almost felt like when I did my first practice, except the difference was the first one was the need. I had to have a practice. The second one was optional. And the optional part is then it's, I think the perfect term is ego. Like, I just had to get that sorted and I felt like my dream had to come together. So I had to put something up that is beautiful.
Nice. What were some of the in hindsight now, having built it, right, and practiced for a while, what were some of the things that were important to you in building it that you would say, look, if you're a younger orthodontist and you're looking to build a space, here are some lessons I've learned along the way of things you have to have, things you shouldn't have, don't get talked into this, but you definitely need this. What are some of those things?
One of the key things I tell young doctors even here is not to just go with one bank or one point of contact. When you collect all your numbers of where your financials are, speak to four, five, six banks, all independently. Take your time, go through every single contact that will talk to you. Then talk to people who are in the private credit sector as well. Because what happens is banks will tell you everything, and the day they have to give you the cash, they might go, that didn't work out. So they are very good at just taking back whatever they said they'll agree to, at least here. So private credit came a long way to help me through this setup. And guess how I knew? Because I was a private credit investor for all these years. After say 2018, I had all these surplus money. I invested in private credit to help out other people. So I had all the contacts, and so now I became a borrower. And which, yes, it's not the same thing. You still have to go through satisfying all these investors. So have 20 to 30% of your entire construction available as cash at any time, because construction costs can go up. Tradies may not come and do the job correctly, so you have to redo stuff. Things will happen. There could be a storm that rips out half your building, which we did have. There was an earthquake. Every aspect of what insurance may not cover, you might have to cover it. That's the
Right.
main aspect. And don't try to reduce your hours to compensate. Obviously, work your regular hours or more so you have enough cash flow. That's the most important part.
Yeah, cash flow is huge. I mean, Um, the biggest problem you can get into is being cash poor. The number one reason why businesses fail is being, over undercapitalized, right? Not having enough cash. In terms of the actual build out itself, were there features in the build out that you put in that, you said, wow, I can't wait to have this? Like I said, things that you felt in the build out you needed to have. I don't know what an example would be. Maybe you didn't have a CBCT before, now you do. Maybe you had, toothbrushing stations before, now you do. Like, for instance, when I rebuilt my office, I don't have any toothbrushing stations. Got rid of them. I felt like toothbrushing stations are the biggest waste of time because everybody comes in and brushes their teeth before they start. Like, even people didn't have lunch. They sit there and they brush their teeth, and I lose 3 minutes of an appointment because suddenly they're going to brush for 3 minutes. They brush for 10 seconds at home. They brush for 3 minutes at my place. So we got rid of toothbrushing stations. We'll either brush their teeth for them while they're in the chair and the wires are out, or they can go into the bathroom and brush their teeth there. So, what are some of the things in your build out that you decided were important to have in there? What are some things that you said, this is a waste. I don't need this?
Got it. My first thing I wanted to model for the next 10, 15 years, and the first thing stuck in my mind is AI. Anything AI I wanted to build in. So we have an AI camera that we installed pre-wired from day one onto both the entrance we have. So the AI, not only we've got two options, is one is to be able to, right now, we haven't implemented it yet, is to do a clock in, clock out for my staff. So this way that I know when they come in, when they go out, that's one way. They don't have to do a actual physical clock in. That we also want to implement. We're talking to this company about when a new patient comes in, we'll take a photo of their mom, dad, and the child, and then that would enable a digital AI check-in. So as they walk in, that should be the main thing we wanted to do. I also modeled our reception to be like the modern day airports, the silent airports. So our reception is silent, where no phone calls ring. All the phone calls are rung in the call center at the back or in the private rooms. So I wanted to be a quiet one, because I've always felt when a phone rings and my front staff now cannot answer, I feel like if I was sitting in the reception, I'm like, well, that girl is not taking the call. That could be me. And I always, when I go to a business, I go like, how could this be different in my business? And so our front desk is a concierge now. So they welcome, say hi, hello, coffee, tea. Do you want, we have fresh fruits for kids all day long, so they can just have a fresh fruit. And we have, and going back to the topic about brushing station, we call it now the monitoring station. So we have the Grin app we have ready to go, so people can come and get that Grin scan done while they're there. So the brushing station is repurposed as a dual purpose, if you need to ask.
Yes.
And I used to be a big time, a heavy aligner user practice, and I'm slowly coming back into the mid range. So half
Interesting.
braces, half aligners. So I can see the value of the oral hygiene kits to use those stations again. That has come back to my life again. So that's definitely a second part that I really enjoyed. But most importantly, this practice is so huge now. I get my 10,000 steps before I go home. It's
Same with me.
it's incredible.
If I was going to build it over again, I'd build it like a quarter of the size. Just especially I've just injured my knee not long ago. They're going to put me in a wheelchair just to get around my office because, again, I do think in many respects, the days, at least in the United States, of massive offices are kind of disappearing. I have people I know who are building 800,000 square foot offices, smaller offices, mostly aligners. But you did mention you're getting away from aligners at this point, or stepping back a little bit. What caused that shift? What's making you come back to wires and brackets a little bit more?
It's not big anything to do. See, it's very interesting, and I hope a lot of young grads take something from this. I look at not based on what I want to do. I truly trying to run my practice based on what others are doing in my town and what the market is doing. So my business sense has always been, yes, let's go and do aligners because look, I as you know, that helping create Spark from scratch and create a system that's world class has been my biggest plus, and I still love it. Do I use other products? I do. What I really wanted to do is see what's around me. A lot of general dentists around me are using aligners. So they're all using the same keywords as you and I do on Google and Meta and whatnot. So a single click on an AdWord for Invisalign or clear aligners is now somewhere around $80. So I'm going, well, I've got the highest experience in my town. I do know to treat all complex cases with aligners. If a patient came to me and asked me for aligners or not aligners, I could still offer them that. So I don't have to advertise on it. But nobody was advertising on braces. It's almost a shift in the last 3 to 5 years, maybe 10. There's a trend towards less advertisement on braces. But this is also the time, because of the volume of aligners they used to do, and notice this aligner fatigue that was getting so common among patients and families. And people were starting to say things like, oh, we don't want aligners. One of my cousins, she doesn't wear them, so I don't think my child will wear them. I won't wear them.
Right.
I don't. Now, I used to say, well, don't worry about it. We got you. Even if you don't wear them, I'll put braces on at no cost, whatever. But now I'm like, you're right. Don't get aligners. If it's not the right fit, we got braces, and braces are magic. And so we've now taken that shift towards that. So it's balanced our mix of aligners and braces very well. And of
Nice.
course, look, I know a lot of people will sit there and saying, cost per chair and this and that. I'm like, look, all of that makes sense, but I've got lots of chairs now, so I don't mind. I can fill them up.
You can. And it's interesting. I was speaking to a doctor at Summit the other day, who said to me, their case acceptance was a little bit lower than they would like it to be. And as we dove into it a little bit more, the discussion was pretty clear to me that what they were doing is they were confusing patients with the options, right? If a patient comes in and says, I want braces, and you start talking about aligners, and you can't create an exact reason why they need to do aligners, they're not going to start. Now they're going to go home and think about, do I want aligners? Do I want braces? Which one? Not because they don't trust you, but they have to think it over, so to speak. So if you're going to, I would tell young doctors, if you're going to present a treatment plan, present it definitively and say, hi, I know you came in thinking you wanted braces, and I'm happy to do that for you. However, here's all the reasons why I would do braces if this was my child, if I were you. How do you feel about that? And I'll say, well, that sounds like really interesting, but be clear that this is the way you would treat. Or, I know you want Invisalign. Here are the reasons why I strongly advise against it and why
That's
I
it.
would tell you to do, right? As opposed to, well, you really should think about Invisalign. It works really, really well. It's really, really good stuff. You should consider it. And blah blah blah. And you could do this or you could do that. Now you've just made it clear that they're not going to start with you that day because now they're going to go home and give it some thought.
Yeah.
And so,
No point in
um,
giving confusion or mixed signals when they say they don't want it or they heard something bad about it. Just don't do it.
yeah, just don't do it. Somebody says, "Well, I heard really bad things about Invisalign." I mean, that's fair to safely go after and say, "Hey, you know what? There's a lot of people doing Invisalign who may not be experts. I've been a top 1% provider for the last 10 years. The stories you've heard are not the stories, or maybe it was a general dentist doing it, right? But once you get past that, well, I don't think he's responsible enough. That's good enough for me. The moment I hear that, so well, he's not really that responsible. I said, good, braces. I've done those once or twice. We can do those, and it works out. Before we go, as we wrap this up, if you were going to give a piece of advice to a young doctor coming out of school right now, right? Young orthodontist, graduating residency, you're going to give them one piece of advice to send them on their way. Is there any words of wisdom you would give them, Vas, as they enter into their practice?
I think branch out, and one of the topics Glenn and I really like is the side hustles. I think you need to have a side hustle in nothing to do with orthodontics. Either you
Yeah.
invest in a private credit. For in my case, I actually own a real estate business on the side. I don't do anything on that side. I'm the majority share owner. I do have somebody who's my ex-TC, by the way. She really wanted to show some interest, and she did go to the real estate industry and filed, but she had that passion. So I said to her, why don't we go help your passion and, we'll do something. She came back and said, I don't have the funds. I said, I do. I said, do you want to go in partnership? So I gave her a non-majority partnership, and it's just been great. So there's an income there that is incredibly amazing.
Yeah.
So side hustles are absolutely great thing. And do me a favor, don't go and do a restaurant.
Don't
Uh,
do a restaurant.
Please don't do restaurants
Don't do a
because
restaurant, people.
or nightclubs.
Dentists are known for trying to get restaurants. Dentists are known in the real estate industry of trying to get don't do restaurants, people. And if
Please
you're going to do a restaurant, be the third owner of a
don't.
restaurant.
Yeah, if you do a restaurant, trust me, people like us will come in and get free drinks and free free dinners. It's just not worth it. That's one thing. Please don't do. Don't do nightclubs. Don't do anything that's on a weekend on a 3 hour window. Just because
No,
Omnia was good doesn't mean you can be an Omnia.
exactly.
Yeah. So anything that excites you, just need to understand it may not make you money. So have that extra bit of courage to go and do either. Look, there are a couple of great magazines out there that for financial strength. Please do read them. And if you don't understand, ask, because that's the most important part to know. Passive
Yeah.
investing and doing something on the side is going to bring you some money, and that requires less of your time, because if you build that up, that's very helpful. One of our greatest side hustle is a low cost braces practice. What was happening is we had a lot of simple class 1 cases that will come in, and they're not in my price range. They want something lower, and a lot of them would end up in the dentist. So I said, well, what can we do about it? So I went and created a new business model that is around 10 miles from my office. That's run by 2 overseas trained orthodontists. They're not registered as orthodontists, and they only do simple class 1 cases. Very simple model, low fee. If they do get a complex case, they refer to me. If I get a case that's simple and cannot afford me, If they only want to come see me, they're gonna see me. But if they cannot afford me, because you get the vibes, they're like, oh yeah, I get it. The, I send them there. So it's a great way of the side hustle, plus have the mindset of you don't have to do this all by yourself. You can have
Wow.
partnership around. So whenever you have a bad time or a bad month, think about how could you make more opportunity rather than just do orthodontics only.
Yeah. And the nice thing about it is if you do orthodontics properly, for everybody listening, you will have money to be able to spend in secondary investments. For me, I've spread it out all over the table, from private equity to venture capital to commercial real estate. It's always good to hedge your bets. I'm not a financial advisor, neither is Vas, but we'll both tell you that it's better to have your money all over the place because you may love doing ortho, and your plan may be to do ortho till you're 80 years old, but you should be able to do it because you want to, not because you have to.
That's it.
And yes, you'll make a great living from ortho. You'll be able to retire when you want to retire. But it's nice to have that side hustle because it just, I don't know, it feeds that entrepreneurial side that not everybody has. But it is nice when you can help somebody else. Like your XTC, you helped her by starting this business. She has a business now that she's a non majority partner in
Right.
because she's doing something she loves. And you get to enjoy that with her. And the money that comes in is great. And you don't have to do anything for it. And so, um, side hustle, side hustle, side hustle. Find something you like, enjoy it. Maybe it makes you a lot of money. Maybe makes you very little money. Maybe it just keeps you out of the hair of your spouse, which is always a good thing. My wife loves that I do other stuff because I'm not sitting around the house following her around all day on days off. Um, but Vas, I want to say thank you to you for being here today. And more importantly, I want to thank you for being the person you are. Anybody who's ever met you loves you. You're an amazing human being. And the fact that you flew across the world to come to a 2.5 day Entrepreneur Summit means the world to me. And you're one of these people who I've gotten to know recently in the last year or two, but I count as among some of the most valued friendships I have. And so thank you, Vas.
Thank you, Glenn. That's beautiful how you put all together. So yeah, you inspire me and the thousands who listen to you. And I mean, sometimes I pinch myself. Why didn't I get into this before? And I think that one meeting really sparked so much in this. And I can wish you enough for that Vanguard group you set up. And I like anything you do that's going to be super successful. Can't wait to be part of it.
Yeah, I can't wait to have you there. Just because you mentioned it, nobody listening yet probably knows what Vanguard is unless they've signed up for it. And I figured, I'll mention it right now, real quick. With Summit being over, folks, if you didn't know, the final summit is done. I don't know if there's anybody on planet Earth who doesn't know that this was the final summit by this point. And just to be clear, people ask, why is it over? I told you, one of the biggest reasons it's over is I do think there's two reasons. One, I think that the time of sitting in a room and having somebody speak to you and you get a little bit here and there is great, but I think it's diminishing. And I think people need to do more of what we love the most, which is being with each other, right? Both casually and to learn. And so Vanguard is not just mastermind. People say, oh, it's a mastermind. No, it's more than that. We've come up with some brilliant ideas that we've found to be able to sort of curated conversations with small group doctors that I will run to make sure that people leave with actionable plans. We're going to use AI to record all the conversations individually to give people actionable plans when they leave that will be collated and created based upon the conversations they have at the table. So when you leave us, you will have a 90-day plan to implement the things both personally, because there'll be a lot of personal conversations, and professionally, so that you can go back home and say, I got to do this, 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 and here are the first steps I need to take. It's going to be like no other meeting anybody's ever done. We've already tested it. People said it's the greatest thing they've ever been to in ortho, and I'm just flattered to have you alongside of us, Vas. So now you have to go. Now you have to be at Vanguard. But for those people out there who don't know anything about it, just go to opvanguard.com. It'll tell you everything you need to know about it. And actually, there's some details in there that we don't cover, specifically what is the agenda. But if you've enjoyed Summit, if you've enjoyed what we've done, just think of this as being that much stronger and that much more impactful. And I'm going to be putting out there that I'll give a 20x ROI guarantee. That if in the first year somebody doesn't get 20 times back what they paid for that meeting, I will refund their money back easily. Because, I mean, it's going to be that impactful. It's going to be amazing. So I appreciate you, Vas. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being in California. When do you go back to Australia? How many more days are you here?
I'm here for a few more days, just 2 more.
Nice. Well, I wish you a safe travel home, and I can't wait to see you hopefully in 1 month.
Cannot wait. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I'll be speaking in Fiji, and then I'm making a side trip to Sydney to go see Vas, David Bachmeyer. I'll give him a shout out here, and any of my other Sydney doctor friends who might be over there. So appreciate you, Vas. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much again.
Great.